All right, everybody. Good morning. It's another Tuesday. Sorry for that abrupt stop in our music there, but
Blame it on the intern.
I'm going to blame it on the intern, Steph. Boys, Matt, Bill, how we doing this morning?
Morning, Ev.
Hey, good morning, Evan. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us today. Spring has sprung here in Pittsburgh, we think. Hopefully this isn't the second false one. You could tell the sun's out today because Matt has his guns out. That's the way he rolls. So we'll see long sleeves on Matt again in October. Until then, I would ask him to pose for you whenever you talk to him. So today...
I was going to say, I asked Evan if he had a muscle filter that he could put on screen to make me look a little bit more jacked.
Well, I can only use it on one person, and it's on Bill.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you might want to up the filter. So we're going to talk today about separating ourselves from the competition and how we do that through the process, the sales process, how we do that through the service process and the engagement process. One of the reasons that prompted this is my week last week of customer service experiences. And I think I mentioned at the end of last week's show, we were in need of a new refrigerator, a backup, secondary refrigerator. And the company I usually buy things from, Don's Appliances here in Pittsburgh, they didn't have one that could go in the garage. They said, you have to do this. And my salesperson there said, she goes, this one time I'll let you buy from Lowe's. I was like, all right. So I reluctantly called Lowe's, go through the process, and end up with a name I don't know, and the whole thing just felt disconnected. Didn't have a personal connection with the person in appliances I was talking to. They're like, yeah, should be fine. I was like, well, that didn't give me a lot of confidence on the should be fine. The delivery was delayed. It was, I think 2 times they had the wrong day. I call someone to ask for help, and she's like, yeah, no one's available. They're all in meetings. They're in manager meetings. Matt will appreciate this one. I said to them, no agenda item on that meeting schedule is more important than me right now. I'm an upset customer.
Did you say it in that voice, in that tone?
Might have been a little more intense.
Okay.
Yeah. But she ended up saying, well, I can't get them out. And I said, I'll hold. She said, well, I'm not going to let you hold. I'm going to hang up. And she hung up on me. So, where do you go with that? So we canceled the refrigerator. I sent an email to my person at Don's Appliances, and I said, this is the one I like. She said, I'll have it delivered tomorrow at 8. Totally different. She cared, right? So that put me on this. What's the difference between people that care? How do you separate yourself from the competition and have these enormous gaps where people look forward to working with you and are pleased to spend money with you versus dreading to call you? So that's what brought us to this topic today. Matt and I were talking about this, and certainly one of the ways you can separate yourself from the competition is by the process you follow, right? How do you execute the sales process, which is why we talk so much about sales process, because it's so important, right? It is so important to be committed to the process and execute the process, not jump out of the process when you think things are going good. When things are going good is when we commit to the process more, and making sure that we're establishing expectations and clear next steps.
And I really think you demonstrate your expertise and your knowledge with the questions that you ask. And that's in sales, that's in operations, that's in customer service. It seems counterintuitive that when you're looking to solve a problem and be the expert, that you're pushing information, you're giving information. But we really believe that you show your knowledge to the questions that you ask. I happen to have a little bit more of that story you told me last week, and I think the salesperson from Don's Appliances, one of the first things that she did was, where's the refrigerator going? What type of refrigerator? What need arose that you need a refrigerator?
Yeah. And the background on the refrigerator is that we're putting it in our garage. And the reason I went to Lowe's is she said to me, well, I really think you need a garage-ready refrigerator, which I've never heard of before. But apparently they're able to function more efficiently from 0 degrees external temperature to 100. She said, if your garage gets cold, and she asked me about my garage, does the temperature drop? Do these things happen? I said, yeah. She goes, yeah, I'd feel more comfortable if you bought a garage-ready refrigerator. I don't have any in stock. I won't have any in until July. This one time I'll let you go to Lowe's and buy one there, right? And after the experience I had at Lowe's, I called her back, and I bought one that's not garage ready. I bought a regular one. I asked her, I said, what's going to happen with that? She said, well, might not last as long. The compressor is going to be overtaxed if the temperature goes low, blah, blah. I said, I don't care. I'm buying it from you. So I bought something that I know might have a shorter shelf life and everything so that I could have that experience of working with them. But you're right, Matt. She demonstrated her expertise. She demonstrated she cared more about me than making a sale through the question she asked. And her name is Maria Sherman, by the way, at Dawn's Appliances. If you need anything, she's great.
Yeah, and again, me personally, knowing how you buy and being alongside you, buying multiple things, it would have been very easy for her just to say, "Oh, Bill's calling. This is a sale. Here we go. Let's speed up. What can I sell him? What does he, what does he need?" And just pushed information, push product. But no, she slowed it down to eventually speed it up.
That's right.
And I think the other interesting thing there is what salesperson would suggest you going elsewhere for business. Think about that. Why did that happen? Because she was putting your needs above her own
quota. Yeah, above her own quota. And by the way, sometimes when we let somebody experience the competition, it's one way to make them a customer for life, right? Because they get to go and experience the difference. They think everybody operates the way you do. They think everybody cares for them the way you do, and that oftentimes isn't the case. Right?
Yeah, and it reminds me also of just this is one of the first times we've had, I think, the topic prior to like the morning of, and I was talking to one of our clients yesterday just about it, and he says the thing that he preaches is don't always try to be right. Don't always try to win the singular battle. The keeping a customer long term is, a war in a way, ebbs and flows. And if you're always looking to be right in every single instance, if you're always looking to win every single battle, ultimately usually lose the war long term.
Isn't it amazing how great sales advice becomes great life advice? Because that's a great life lesson, right? With long-term relationships that we want to maintain and nurture. If we always need to be right, at some point we're going to be wrong. And, I think that's great marital advice. Hopefully Susie's watching today. She doesn't always need to be right like she thinks she does. I'm kidding, Z. But, it's great life advice. It's great marriage advice. It's great friendship advice. We don't always need to be right. It's okay to step back. And if somebody thinks they're right and they're convicted on something, we're never going to win that argument by saying you're wrong. The only way we can ever help them grow to get to that knowledge point is let them self-discover. And we take them down self-discovery through questions and sometimes experience. And as a leader, we talk about that. When we work with leaders, we tell them about how one of the great traits of leaders, it happens to be one of the great traits of being a parent, and that's how do you let your children or those you're leading fail without having fatal consequences, right? How do we experience failure without experiencing really bad consequences? From a business perspective, those bad consequences might be losing a client, might be, destroying, losing an employee, doing things that are going to have long-term negative impact on the business. But it's okay to let people make mistakes so that they ultimately discover and learn. And sometimes we need to let that happen with our customers and our clients as well.
And I don't know why that reminded me of it, but healthy conflict. And healthy conflict leads to some of the best relationships. And if we do have conflict with our clients, let's look at as an opportunity and to resolve it and to strengthen that relationship. I just came across, we all know one of my favorite questions is, what does success look like? What is your desired outcome? And it just clicked to me that I got it from probably a talk that you gave way back, almost about customer service. When someone is upset and calls you and is obviously fired up or something's went wrong, by the way, things are going to go wrong with our clients and prospects. Instead of trying to solve, instead of trying to jump in, instead of trying to be right, a great question is, I understand, I feel that way. What does a successful outcome look like to you?
Yeah. How do we solve this?
Yeah.
And That is a great point. When we have a challenge, when somebody's angry, when they're pushing back on us, it's really easy to say, hey, what are you hoping I can help you with?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to bat for you. What do you want me to ask for?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And see where we come to that solution, or where we come to that satisfactory outcome. Because oftentimes the outcome they're looking for might be different than the one we're trying to produce. And when we have that misalignment of expectations, we can go far and think we're doing something, right? You're like, oh, we're going to give you a gift card. I don't want a gift card.
Mm-hmm.
I want this, or I just want, sometimes all somebody wants to hear is I'm sorry.
Yep.
Right. Just know that you care, know that they're not crazy for feeling this way. And by the way, if you're following along in the comments, I agree with Marcy. She is always right. And Ron should notice that. But, I think that it's important for us to have that, what's important to them. That's how we put their needs first. Oftentimes it's just by asking those simple questions. You talk about healthy conflict. I've learned there are so many people that are allergic to healthy conflict. They can't have it. They have such a drive and such a need for harmony that they don't embrace somebody being angry, right? And we're going to have somebody that, healthy conflict is just, how do we deal with situations where needs are misaligned?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be that we run from it and avoid it. That's actually the worst thing we could do when we have an upset customer, when we have a difficult question. That's one way to not separate ourselves from the competition in a positive way, but maybe separate ourselves from the competition in a very negative way, right? But that healthy conflict is something we see people not being comfortable with.
Well, even in that conflict and opportunity to separate ourselves, the failure to meet expectations, guess what a great way to fail to meet them? Not setting them.
Not talk about them. Right.
So
and
we have
not document them after you do.
So we have to lay out expectations. And by the way, expectations sound a lot like clear next steps in the sales cycle. How many times have we got caught, myself included, of saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to solve this. I'll get this to you quick, or I'll turn this back around to you quickly." Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Prospect or clients quick is might be quicker than my quick. I don't know. So a key part of managing those expectations are when you come up with a solution, being able to play it out. Is it all right if I get it back to you by the end of the week? And they're going to say yes or no. Is it all right? Does this meet your timetable if I get it back to you by midday? They'll let you know and say, no, I can't, turn around quicker. More oftentimes than not, they're saying, yeah, that's fine. And we didn't speed ourselves up and put that pressure on ourselves by a really short deadline that we may or may not meet.
It's unrealistic.
Yeah.
And when you say to somebody, is end of the week good? And they say, yeah, and you get it to them by the end of the week, we've established trust. Because remember, trust is when our words and actions are consistent over time. So we say we're going to do something by the end of the week. We do it. Words and actions were consistent. We're building trust, right? And it's funny you talk about timelines, for how we offer timelines versus ask about timelines. I've shared a story about of someone who's, I guess, somewhat famous. His name was General Gus Pagonis. He was the number 2 guy in Desert Storm behind Norman Schwarzkopf. He was in charge of logistics. And he was able to mobilize the U.S. forces in Kuwait inside of 2 weeks. I don't know if that sounds impressive to you, but when you think about it, he had to build restaurants and mess halls. He had to build hospitals. He had to build, He had to build barracks. He had to build cities in 2 weeks for our troops. So later, after General Pagonis retired from the Army, he served on the board of a company I was with called CombineNet. And one day I'm standing around with him, and he asked somebody for a spreadsheet. He's like, hey, I'd like to see that spreadsheet so I could take a look at some of the things you mentioned. And this person said to him, yeah, absolutely. And General Pagonis said, when do you think I could see that? And this guy said, no, I should have it to you in about 2 weeks. And he looked at this person, and I won't use all the words he used, but he said, I planned a war in 2 weeks, and it's going to take you 2 weeks to get me a spreadsheet. And this person said, I could probably have it to you by Friday. And they did, and it changed the narrative, right? But just remember, the expectations on timeline can be different. So when you offer that, it's better to just ask, when would you need to see this? when's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Matt mentioned clear dates for managing expectations. Very important. He mentioning establishing expectations and then actually setting them out, documenting them in an email back whenever we have that, if there's multiple things. He managed clear next steps, which appear on two people's calendars. So remember, they're specific time bound, and we want calendar invites going out. And we always talk about the importance of proposal draft reviews and how that separates us from the competition. Whenever we say to somebody, hey, I'm going to put this together, I want to make sure I have the right scope. Do you have about a half hour for us to sit down and go through what I put together to make sure I'm on target? You usually get a yes. Mm-hmm. If somebody says to you, just send that over to me because I'm going to have to review it with someone else, the easy way to manage that is say, I got it, I understand, but maybe you and I should spend a little time together before I submit it to you, because I'm sure you're going to have some questions when you meet with your colleague that I want to be able to answer for you ahead of time. Mm-hmm. It's to their benefit, right? It's always to their benefit.
And what is this doing the entire process? It's demonstrating trust when our words and actions are consistent over time. And when we work with a new client, I always tell them one of the biggest compliments that you can get is, wow, that felt different. Mm-hmm. That process felt different. They might not be able to articulate it, put their finger on it, but you were different than the rest. So, keep that in mind. Wanted to just give a shout out real quick to Zach Kasparic, who tunes into the show often. He was a teammate of mine at Akron. He's at All Aerial Cranes now. So if you ever need a crane, call Zach in the Ohio area.
There you go. And if you ever need protection as a quarterback, Zach's a pretty good offensive lineman from what I understand too.
And then Doug has a comment as well.
Evan, you want to read that one for us, please?
Yeah, Doug Mousley, watching over on LinkedIn, says, I've heard that only 1 in 25 unhappy customers will complain. I wonder how many other refrigerators are sitting in the showroom instead of being sold. We also had Leanne Powell said, healthy conflict, well explained. So thank you guys for your comments. Appreciate it.
And Leanne, let's talk about healthy conflict for just a moment more. Not to beat that horse, but Matthew Kelly wrote a book called maybe it's the 5 levels of intimacy. But what he talked about is like that first level of intimacy is when we don't have intimacy. It's where we talk about the weather, current events, politics, whatever. It's just hovering above real stuff. He says we don't get to real intimacy in a relationship until we first go through some type of conflict. And you think about the people that are closest to you, not just those in your family that you love, but the people in the business world that you have the closest relationships with, or the people in your community that you're closest with. At some point, you saw things differently than them, right? And it wasn't that you screamed and yelled at each other. It was that you saw something differently than they did, and you were able to talk through that. And you were able to get to a good understanding of each other and a good understanding of the problem. Healthy conflict is just seeing something differently and getting to a clear outcome and a clear solution. It doesn't mean we yell at each other. In fact, healthy conflict is when we keep our focus on the problem and don't attack the other. Mm-hmm. Right. So thank you for that, Leanne. So one other thing, we talk about, we've talked today about separating ourselves through the sales process. One of our clients, Alliance Home Care, they're based out in New York. They have this unbelievable rule that they follow in their company about how they hire people, right? They apply the grandma rule. And the grandma rule is, would I care for this person? Would I allow this person? Would I trust this person to care for my grandmother, to care for grandma? And you think about how simple that is, mm-hmm. right? That's the way the filter by which they take through all potential new hires, because they recognize what? They recognize every person they bring into their company impacts their culture and ultimately impacts their reputation in the marketplace. So do you want to trust your reputation, the reputation of your business? In their case, they're caring for grandmas, right? So do you want to trust somebody to come into your business that's not going to care for your grandma well, that you wouldn't allow to go mm-hmm. care for grandma? So how do you apply that rule to your business? I don't know if it's the grandma rule, but do you think about every person you bring into your company as a representation of your brand. And every time somebody comes into your business, they're going to have an impact on your brand, be it positive or negative, right? I've never met Dawn of Dawn's Appliances, but I won't buy an appliance anywhere else because of Maria, right? Because they brought in somebody that cares enough about their brand. I know Matt cares about our brand as much as I do, right? So that's why I have full faith and confidence in Matt. Trust him implicitly because I know he's never going to do something to hurt our brand. So the grandma rule applies, I think, to us when we're making purchases as well. I think everybody has a version of the grandma rule in their head, whether it's unconscious or unspoken. We're all really asking ourselves, does this person care about me? Do they care about my needs? And ultimately, do they care about my needs and me and my business and my family and my people more than they care about themselves? So, as a salesperson, remember, our quota is not their problem. What our job is to go out and find healthy solutions to challenges, help make people's lives easier, whatever it might be. We bring people solutions that make life easier for them, that make life better for them. And if we're not thinking about that, I guarantee you we're not delivering great, incredible customer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So,
one final thing, watch the language if you are, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but when you are solving, a customer service, something on the back end, don't talk about, I think this is Susie's pet peeve. Well, that's against our company policy or we can't do that. It's, us, collective. If you cannot do something, I love the language of, well, that would be unfair to you, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, and here's why, because that's, not enough service, or that would, be failing you. So make it about them rather about us, company policies, things of that nature.
Yeah, if you ever said to somebody, it's against our policy, you're not putting their needs ahead of yours. You're not, because it's not about policies, it's about people. Put people first, not policies first, right? And to Matt's point about language, nobody likes anybody, and there's just this negative connotation that's expressed with the words I and me. It should always be us and we, right? It's never I and me, it's always us and we. So think about that, and appreciate you guys tuning in with us again. I know a little bit off topic today of, not being locked into process and not being locked into following through our process, but it really is important to think about how are you separating yourselves from the competition. So one thing we'd like you to do, we don't push this enough and we don't ask you enough, but in the spirit of separating ourselves from the competition, this show is designed to serve you. So as you go through the week and you're dealing with situations, be they in a sales environment, hiring environment, or a leadership environment, please, please, please take those challenges you're having while they're fresh in your mind and submit them to us here at evan@tellericogroup.com. As you know, Evan is our show producer who makes this all work. Evan will manage those questions, filter them, and get them to us, and we'll make sure we get them on the agenda. Right, Evan?
Absolutely. Very excited.
I thought Evan was going to answer them. No.
I think we were going to have Ron dress up like Mr. McFeely and bring the mail in.
Yeah, mailbag.
So.
Yeah. Ron come running in. That would be great. But yes, please, Evan, that's EVAN @tellericogroup.com. Please submit your questions, Evan, and we'll be sure to get them on the agenda for the upcoming week so that, again, we can serve you guys and not just come on here and hear ourselves talk. So thank you for being with us. This was a fun show for us. I can't believe we went 24 minutes, but we look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday. Thank you for your time, your continued trust and confidence. God bless you all. Take care.
Have a good week.
And happy belated Easter to everybody out there. And enjoy that season.